Hello and welcome, gorgeous people. I'm Adam and this is Quell for Vegans. I'd like to say a big thank you to all the new subscribers, and for any of you who haven't, please click down below. Today we're going to be going back onto the sofa and watching another documentary, this time from someone who is at the absolute pinnacle of making nature documentaries, David Attenborough. So the brief description of the documentary is: over the past 60 years of his broadcasting, he has seen the environment and the natural world changing. And this is his witness statement of what has happened and, more importantly, what we can do for the future so that our family, our children, have actually got somewhere to live. Over those 60 years, he has been instrumental in the whole genre of the nature documentary. If you've seen any documentary, it will be in the style that he pretty much invented. So without further ado, let's get on the sofa and watch the documentary. See you soon. I'm going to fall off this one day. So this really did show a good 60 years of someone's life on how from the 1937 up until the present day, how the environment has actually changed. And it's quite startling. They do show some infographics throughout, and it starts off and you've got the population and the carbon footprint and how much wilderness there is in the world. And starts off in 1937 and there's 2.3 billion people, 280 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, and over 66% of the world is still in wilderness. And then it fast forwards to today, and the population is now 7.8 billion. I mean, that's a ridiculously large amount of people that have grown, literally grown. And our carbon footprint now is 415 parts per million. And the wilderness that helps to soak up and maintain our world is down to 35%. It's halved in that 60 years. That's half of the rainforests decimated. Half of our wilderness outside our back doors gone. And yet we've had an over threefold increase in our population worldwide. The numbers are quite staggering. And he goes on to explain that there have been 5 extinction events throughout history. Now those will be from all sorts of things like mass volcanic activity, meteorites plunging into the ground, to polar flips, to axis tilts. All those sorts of things would help to cause an extinction event. But we're actually on the verge of a 6th extinction event. And this one's markedly different to the others. Now the others were all natural events. It didn't really help the local wildlife, but they were still unavoidable natural events. This time, it's our own fault. Now, to begin with, as a young civilization, if you like, we were very ignorant. Our science hadn't really grasped the concept of how everything sort of fits together. And now, in the past few decades, we have really managed to get a handle on more of the science of it. And we know how interconnected everything is. And if we muck around too much in one area, that's going to overspill and make everything unbalanced. And then it'll all fall apart. There are some great lines that are throughout the entire film. And one of them was particularly poignant at this point. And that's that now that it was visible, it was no longer acceptable. And that was for whaling, but it's the same argument for everything. Now that we have seen that there is a problem, it is no longer acceptable for that problem to exist. Now, whether that's the over-farming or the stripping of our natural resources, our forests and rainforests and oceans, now that we see it, now that it's actually there, we don't like it, and we don't want that to happen, and we don't want to pass it on to the next generation. So there's some truly heartbreaking moments in the film, following the whaling, which has luckily declined a lot now, but it's still being practiced, and the plight of orangutans whose rainforest is getting depleted for palm oil. Now the film gets broken down into 4 distinct areas. So it's got the past and the present, but also the future predictions. And they're all getting worse and worse and worse. But then it goes on to the final section of what can we do to make a difference? And that's where the light really starts to shine a bit. And that's increasing renewable energies. They're everywhere and they won't run out. So why not use them? The second point was reducing fishing. Now, I would kind of go a bit further and say stop fishing pretty much altogether. Now, I know obviously I come from the vegan background, so I will go more towards the animal welfare side of it. But he says in the film, if we stop fishing a little bit, it'll make the oceans better. So if we stop fishing, they'll make them even better than that. And he goes on to say about changing our diet and how we'd only actually need about half of the farming land that we'd have now to produce all the food that we need if we go to a plant-based diet, basically, which is brilliant. So that's when he goes over and looks at the Netherlands and their system of farming, and it's a bit more technological, but they use less water, less power, less resources. It creates less carbon, but it creates more food. And they have a look at the vertical farming techniques and how they can all help to improve our food production by actually at the same time minimizing and reducing our impact of that farming. So that 50% of land mass that we use now could in fact decrease even further. Now, one of the last things he did say was about reducing our dependence on palm oil and soya. Now, I can partly agree with that. Palm oil, yeah, definitely. We need to get rid of palm oil. It's ridiculous what we're doing to produce it. Soya is a slightly different matter. Now, only about 5% of soya production worldwide is actually used for human consumption. The vast majority, something like about 85% of worldwide soya production is for animal feed. So if we get rid of the need for that, then there isn't a problem. So this was a really, really informative and well put together documentary, as you would expect from such a legend as himself. There is, however, one elephant in the room, and that's Sir David Attenborough's diet. Now, after going through all this, I thought, what has he done? He's obviously told us what we should do, but what has he done? Now, unfortunately, he hasn't gone full vegan. So in interviews with the Radio Times here in the UK, he has stated that he is now mostly vegetarian. He doesn't eat red meat. only occasionally eats poultry. He still eats fish. But he also admits that it's a middle-class hypocrisy. And that every time he does have some of those, he does feel some guilt for it. Which, you know, we all start somewhere. We all have our own journeys. Some are quicker than others. But every single thing helps. The more we can do, the more we can help. And it's not just about one person. It's about all of us together. And that was pretty much the sum encompassing part of this documentary, is that it's not about one thing. It's about everything and how everything fits in together and how it all plays off of each other. So it's not just about one person going vegan. It's about everybody trying to do their thing to reduce the demand on this planet. Because if we don't reduce the demand on this planet, the planet will reduce us. So, on that lovely, bright, sunny note, thank you very much for watching. And if you have liked this video, please like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon, and you'll be notified next time I release a video. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Hey. Renew.